Take 900... Am I on? Yeah.
Am I
I don't know if I was on. Take 901 of Transformers 1. Action. Welcome back to the NCUT movie review. Today we have Transformers 1. The only thing that would have made this better is Sam Witwicky.
The plot of the movie is based around the fallout of Optimus Prime and Megatron's relationship. Now, in the movie, Optimus is referred to as Orion Pax. Orion Pax is Optimus Prime's name before he got his cog, which turned him into a Prime. And then Megatron's name is D16, which is his name before he got his cog, which turned him into Megatron. The fallout takes place on Cybertron, their homeworld planet, which we didn't really see much of in the Michael Bay live-action films, aside from a few flashbacks here and there. So, kind of cool to see their home world and sort of where the Autobots and Decepticons came from. The movie is animated, so that's a little bit of a change-up from Michael Bay's live-action movies that we're used to seeing with Sam Witwicky, Shia LaBeouf, those kind of guys, the GOAT, as we like to say here.
Bring him back, please.
I just put in that light there, in that disco ball.
And the thing with an animated movie is it sort of makes it a little bit easier for them to build out this whole universe without relying so heavily on like crappy sort of CGI or maybe like green screen if it was a live action movie. So in that regard, it sort of makes the movie a little bit easier to watch and stomach when they're on a place like Cybertron, which is a crazy world that's terraforming all the time due to the sacrifice of Primus, which we find out in the movie as well. So the movie sort of delves into the origins of Cybertron and also the origins of the Autobots and the Decepticons before they were that. This movie takes place before Autobots and Decepticons are a thing and shows why it ends up breaking apart.
So this film starts off just jam-packed full of action, and it's quite thrilling immediately. Like, it makes you anticipate almost everything popping up on the screen. It starts off immediately with a chase scene, and then it moves on to like a bit of a story building scene, and then right back to a chase scene. You're just engaged immediately, and that's what I like about these films. Yeah. Especially when you come into this and it's like meant to be a kid's film, but it really wasn't. It was more for adults, and that's what I enjoy about these films, especially origin stories, because you need to be on point with that stuff. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
Well, especially because like we grew up on Transformers. I mean, the Michael Bay movies were, when we were all growing up as kids, the greatest part of our childhood nearly, when you think about how awesome it was when you first saw Optimus and Bumblebee on screen. And then for this movie, yeah, it probably is catered maybe towards kids because it's animated, but there's enough in it for people of all ages, fans of all ages who love Transformers to watch this, because like we're not kids and we still enjoyed the movie thoroughly, and we were watching it like, this is great. I haven't watched many Transformers cartoons or anything like that on TV, but this was my first foray into it and I liked it. And I can't wait for the next one, to be honest, if there is another one.
And it really does have everything. It has more action, it has the suspense, it has a story building, and it's got the comedy, and that's mainly pushed through Keegan Michael Key, who's, by the way, finally plays the greatest Bumblebee. I can hear Bumblebee talk for now.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've heard him talk, and I loved it.
And that was a perfect casting as well, because obviously we know B from the live action as he spoke through the radio, like his voice box was broken, so it was always like, it wasn't him actually talking. And then lo and behold, who do they get to be Bumblebee in this movie? Keegan Michael Key, who is just like, as soon as you hear that voice, you just know. We knew straight, as soon as we heard that voice, we looked at each other like, it has to be him. And then it opens up with one of the greatest jokes you're ever going to hear in your life, a great callback that if you know Keegan Michael Key, if you know the Key and Peele show, you'll understand this callback immediately. And that straight away to set you off like, this is going to be funny. Every scene he's in or every moment that he's in, it's going to be funny.
And speaking about guessing who the character is that you're seeing on screen, I didn't know any of the cast going into this, but I was trying to guess who the voice was to the animation that was jumping on the screen. Every single time it jumped on, I thought, that's Chris Hemsworth. That's Scarlett Johansson. That's Steve Buscemi. Everything on here, it's just set up to be a great film, and that, even just guessing who the character is, made me want to watch this even further, and it just literally pushed me further in.
Now, while we're talking about the voice acting, obviously Peter Cullen is Optimus Prime.
My name is Optimus Prime.
His voice is synonymous with Optimus Prime, and for Chris Hemsworth, these were huge shoes to fill. He's on the same level as Kevin Conroy, who plays all of the Batmans that we know and love in the video games, TV shows, whatever it is. Kevin Conroy is Batman. It's the same thing with Peter Cullen. Now, Chris Hemsworth had to fill those shoes, and going in, if you know Chris Hemsworth, you think to yourself, it's a big task for him to take over. And in this movie, I think he holds his own. He was never going to be able to beat Peter Cullen or replace Peter Cullen because his voice is Optimus. We know that. But I think, as paving his own way, I think he did a great job as Optimus, and he sort of tried hard to not just be Chris Hemsworth talking and voice acting, reading lines. He actually tried to embody Optimus Prime, and you see that from the beginning of the movie where he's this sort of like young Optimus who isn't a Prime yet. He's just Orion Pax, hasn't got his cog yet to make himself a Prime, and then at the end of the movie, when he has finally become Optimus Prime, you actually can hear and feel the change in his tone and in the way he's reading the lines and voice acting. So props to Chris Hemsworth. That would have been no easy feat to replace Peter Cullen, because he is the GOAT.
And also Bryan Henry. And also Bryan Henry. We don't trust a guy with two first names. But you know, Bryan Henry, he did a phenomenal job as Megatron, but he has massive shoes to fill as well. He was trying to fill the shoes of Hugo Weaving as Megatron. You know, he did a good job. Obviously, you're never going to hit that hallmark as Hugo Weaving does because that voice is synonymous with Megatron. But he did a very good job. And you could also see how his character changed when he didn't have the cog, when he found out he was hard done by, so he needs to be able to get retribution for what's happened. So that was awesome from him to also implement that scene, that movie presence that character built, because as we know, Megatron is the bad guy. And what makes him the bad guy? Now we find out.
One subtle thing that they did towards the end of the movie that was really subtle, but it was such a good touch. At the beginning of the movie, Optimus and Megatron don't have any metallic sort ofness in their voice. Like when you watch the live action films, you know, they have that robotic sort of tone. Or towards the end of the movie, when you see them go down their different paths, they did a little bit of voice modulating on Chris Hemsworth's voice when he's talking as Optimus to sound like Peter Cullen. And then you had Bryan Henry's modulated a little bit to sound like Megatron. And that was sort of a nice touch to show that they've grown. Now they are who we know them as.
And when you start an origin story, it must be very difficult to try and base something off so many people love, which is Transformers. It's been massive for so many years. So how can we start an origin story to the live actions? This was a very hard task to live up to, but I think that they did a phenomenal job at it. They were able to tell the story, but also keep you entertained.
Yeah, and one perfect way for them to sort of tell a bit of the backstory of this movie was they casted Lawrence Fishburne, and his character had been wronged in the past, and then he sort of explains to Optimus and Megatron, like, not everything is as it seems. It got me thinking, Lawrence Fishburne is the only man that can explain to you that you have been wronged, and you had the wool pull over your eyes, you're a slave, and that you need to go back and get what's yours. That was perfect from them.
And speaking about, you know, Morpheus being in this film, it kind of foreshadows life a little bit. The fact that you have the top of the top people lying to you all the goddamn time about what's really happening, and then they want you to work more so they get more profit. It's basically the same thing. And that's so good about these almost kids films because they do have these underlying tones to reality. Yes. I don't know if you guys watched Ants, but that cricket or cicada, whatever he is, that thing gives the best speech I've ever seen.
Great analogy.
When he's standing there on top of those pine nuts that he has, and he's like, they outnumber us 100-1. That's exactly the same thing that's happening here, which is perfect. This is what I get hyped up about. And speaking of getting hyped up, Chris Hemsworth gives one of the greatest motivational speeches. I thought I was listening to David Goggins out there. I was ready to fight everyone.
That's the perfect way to know that it's a good film, is that they have an innuendo towards like real life, or that's what all these movies from like the 80s and the 90s, the Pixars, the DreamWorks, the Disney movies from back in those days had. It was like adult writers writing a movie for kids, but leaving jokes in there or little things in there for parents to laugh at, or parents to go, like my kid's never going to get that, but I do. I feel like that's the hallmark to a great kids movie, because it's just, the kids aren't going to know what that means. It's just going to go over their head. The adults or the older people are going to get that. And then when the kids see that when they're older, they're going to watch it back and go, oh yeah, that's pretty much how I feel right now.
Yep. We've preached about how good this film is. There's one thing this whole movie was missing. Where the hell is the outro to Linkin Park?
Yeah.
You can't have a Transformers, and I then can't see, directed by Michael Bay, and have Linkin Park there.
Agreed.
What the hell is that? Michael Bay was an executive producer in this.
Yep.
Put your goddamn name at the end. I don't care if you're not even the director.
Agreed.
Put your name there first, and then Linkin Park. The greatest outro of all time, just under our one.
Yeah. Listen to the end, you'll hear great. Shout out Carl Casey.
So as always, we end these reviews with a rating. I'm going to rate this watchable. You have to go see this film. It's a great origin story, and yeah, you just have to see this. It's just impeccable.
Yeah,
this movie.
couldn't recommend it more. And props to Chris Hemsworth. A crazy role to take on after Peter Cullen, but he held his own.
Yeah, and IGN was completely wrong about this, by the way.
Don't listen to IGN.
They're
5, don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed what you heard. The question of the day is, what's your favourite Transformers? For me, has to be number 1. It's just the greatest film ever. And also, Megan Fox.
Oh, Megan Fox. Okay. Number 2 for me. A sneaky 3. I do like The Dark of the Moon because it has a good storyline, good action scenes.
Yeah.
But 2, it just got my heart. Anyway, guys, this has been another NCUT movie review. Peace, we out.
Peace.
And cut.